Hi, everybody. My name is Bryce Rankins, and this is my co-host, Brian Romero.
Hi, guys.
And this week, we're doing a special episode that actually is from 2 years ago. Yeah. Last weekend, on August 28th, the world got the news that Chadwick Boseman had passed away from colon cancer. And this was devastating.
Huge shock.
Yeah. Really just blindsided us for sure. And 2 weeks after Black Panther originally came out, we had recorded an episode. We had 5 microphones, as redundant as possible as
we got all fancy and set up.
And we invited actor Alita LaShae and writer and actor Stephen Littles, both to join us. And then the great hard drive crash of 2018 happened.
Yeah.
And we lost all 5 audio clips, or I lost all 5 audio clips, and there were a few issues with syncing up the audio as it was that was causing a pretty massive delay. And then to have lost all the files as well, just, by the time we recovered any of the audio, it was so far gone. So we had decided we were going to release it with, when
Black Panther 2.
Yeah, when the trailer came out or when the film came out, something to look back at that point. And we realized, that with all the audio stuff we had to do, with everything that we've learned in the last couple of years.
Yeah, editing-wise and syncing-wise.
Yeah, much easier now to fix a lot of those problems for us than it was back then. But with Chadwick Boseman passing away, we felt that it would be best to release that episode this week.
Yeah.
So next week we'll be right back to our regular Comic-Con recap, and we'll have that back up, and that'll all be back to normal. But this week we thought it would be nice to go back 2 years to hear all of our impressions pre-Infinity War.
Pre-Infinity War, yeah. So this is a while ago.
Yeah, it's a while ago. It's a great episode. I'm really, really happy about all the stuff we did to make the audio function again.
Yeah.
And it's an absolute just joy.
It was just a fun episode. That was one of our more fun episodes to record.
Yeah, it was, and we were just all so excited about Black Panther and everything. And I mean, there's moments where it gets pretty heavy, but there's also moments where it gets just kind of sad because we're talking about Chadwick Boseman's 5-year contract and how excited we all are for it, and knowing that there's more to come, and hearing that can be a little bit tough. So strap in for that. But without further ado, here is Brian, Bryce, Stephen, and Alita in February 2018.
Yep. Enjoy, guys.
Hi everybody, my name is Bryce Rankins, and I am joined here by all sorts of people today on...
This is like our first time with 4 people,
I think.
4, Spoilers, there's 4 people here.
Yeah, 4 people here. We have Stephen Littles.
Yes, Stephen Littles.
And we have Alita LaShae.
Yeah, Alita LaShae.
Hey guys.
Yeah.
And of course, Brian Romero is here.
I'm here.
He introduces himself.
Yeah, man.
Nope, that's your job.
Yep. And today we are talking about Black Panther. Whoop, whoop. Black Panther came out almost 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yes, at the time of recording this. Oh, wait.
That's what day it is again.
It is Wednesday, my dude.
February 28th. Last day of Black History Month, guys.
Which is why we're talking about Black Panther.
Yeah, we had to squeeze it in now because we sure as heck can't talk about it tomorrow.
Oh,
no way.
You gotta wait a full year
Exactly.
after today.
You guys gotta remember, we're one tribe now, one nation.
Right.
That's what it is. Wakanda Forever.
Wakanda Forever.
Let's just do it.
So,
That was so badass, though.
It was so good. Okay,
badass.
real quick,
That's
just
reading.
impressions. Spoiler alert. We are gonna go full
Heavy
spoilers.
spoilers.
If you haven't seen it by now, you
Get your
live
shit
under a rock.
together.
Yeah, you live under a rock and are failing as a
And
responsibility as a human.
even though you live under a rock, obviously they're screening that movie under a rock, so you're still
Oh, yeah.
You're still failing. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Steven?
I loved it the second time more because I did the Regal 4DX by mistake the first time. I didn't know that the seats moved.
Yeah.
And there's like flashing lights and everything. Took me completely out of it.
Sounds like
Like,
Oh, you know what? It sounds like it would do. Like, if It sounds like that kind of thing is more of a second screening.
Oh, absolutely. Like, I probably would have appreciated it more the second time, but the first time I was like, what? What's touching my seat now?
He's ready to fight.
Yeah, exactly. Like Honey, I Shrunk the Audience.
Like, what the hell?
I missed a joke because they're just right in my face. So I don't know, man.
That's why I didn't enjoy Guardians 2, and that was just in regular 3D. Because just the effects, I was like, you're missing all sorts of things because you're so busy like trying to stay focused on something.
Yeah.
You know.
Guardians 2 I like just completely blanked. I've seen it. I just completely blanked on the fact that I've seen it though. I was like,
oh no, you know what? It was Guardians 1.
I was gonna say, I don't think we saw it in 3D.
We saw that one at the El Capitan.
Yeah. In the regular D.
In regular D, and a little early.
Yeah.
But honestly, first impressions, this was the strongest storyline I've seen Marvel do since the first Captain America movie for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like, that's
as far as introductory movies or movies entirely?
I would say within the Marvel universe.
Okay.
That was probably the
Did you see Homecoming?
I did see Homecoming.
How did you feel about Homecoming?
Strong but very different. Like I put coming of age stories in that type of box.
Okay.
That
makes sense.
Yeah, like that feels something completely different than this. Gotcha. This is like a big character. This is a big tonal shift.
Yeah.
Right.
And like
big time.
nothing's quite the same after
Yeah,
this.
he's an adult dealing with adult problems.
Yeah, this is
whereas Homecoming is definitely a teenager.
Still dealing with teenager problems, but then also a couple adult problems.
He's got some adult problems, but like his internal struggle is not like where do I fit in the world?
It's like how do I be a teenager but also be a superhero?
Yeah. Whereas Black Panther's
I'm a king.
I'm a king and a diplomat and I have a foundation and I'm a superhero and my dad might be bad or not. I don't know.
And I'm also a black man.
Yeah.
Like that.
He was black.
What? Shocked.
That changes everything. I gotta see it again now.
Cool. We'll see you guys later. We're gonna go to the movies.
Exactly.
This was fun. I am mind blown.
Good time. Yeah. Thanks for coming out, guys.
This is fantastic.
Thanks for having me.
Glad you enjoyed the crackers and tea.
So this is
that's actually the name of our second podcast.
Oh my God,
Crackers and tea.
Thank you for having crackers and tea. It's like,
Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
Okay, Alita, how'd you feel about the movie?
I loved it. So I work very, very sporadic shifts with both of my jobs. So I got to catch an 8:30 in the morning screening.
Oh, nice. All by yourself?
No.
So this is a podcast, and she had a very interesting face.
I went to Cinemark in North Hollywood, and I bought my ticket the night before because I was like, cool, just in case.
You might as well.
I'm like, just in case, just I don't want to show up at 8:30 and they're like, oh, we don't have seats.
Mm-hmm.
I got there and when I bought my ticket, there was one seat beside me available and then like three beside me available.
Oh, wow.
And the rest of the screen was like the rest of the theater was full.
Oh yeah.
Like I just had that thought of like, oh, some people are just not going to show up because that's what happens in movies.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But then I thought as I got there, I thought about it. I'm like, if you buy an 8:30 in the morning ticket,
you're going.
You're going.
Yeah. No one gets up that early. Yeah.
Right.
So like when I got there, it was just me and a couple other people. By the time that like lights went down and like previews or trailers are playing, I looked around and the entire theater was full, and maybe only like 10 people in the theater were children.
Wow.
Like, these are all adults.
Awesome. Yeah.
These are all adults awake on a Saturday at 8:30.
At 8:30, yeah.
Wow.
That's how you know this movie's
I was like, I know half of you went out the night before.
Absolutely.
And you committed to coming here this morning.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But then also, aside from that, I think Cinemark has like maybe let's say 7 actual theaters, like in 7 screenings, but 6 out of 7 of them were Black Panther.
Oh wow.
That's awesome.
So
That's so awesome.
Same movie, different times, different screens, and I was like, I've never
probably
seen
all
like
full.
I've never seen that movie. Yeah, that was maybe like when Star Wars: Force Awakens came out. Maybe.
Yeah.
I've never seen like one movie theater, essentially one movie.
Yeah.
Unless it was like a single
I've
screen.
seen like 6 screens, but never in like a 7-screen theater.
Oh yeah.
No, that's
like
all
6 out of 7 of them.
I mean, that's what tickets are going for.
Regal in Seattle did 9 for like the first night.
Yeah.
It was crazy. And they started screening at like 6 p.m.
That's like Harry Potter status.
Yeah.
I didn't even think Harry Potter did that. Like,
Well, I mean, Harry Potter did for like midnight premieres.
Well, yeah.
And things like that. Back when midnight premieres were at
Was a
midnight.
thing?
Yeah, exactly.
when they started at midnight and not at 9
And
p.m.
not at 7:30 for Brian and I.
Yeah.
We bought our
The comic book generation has jobs now. So they can't be doing They know their audience now.
They do.
We got bills to pay now.
Yeah, we do.
We can't do that no more.
It's like I got stuff to actually start work at 5 in the morning. I can't be starting a movie at midnight
Right.
or 12:30.
Oh, yeah. I gotta get up
Takes
early in the
time.
morning.
It's like, well, I should still be asleep. But I love the movie, mostly, obviously, because it was great to see representation on the screen. But it was nice to be able to be thrown into story. But also, like, once I finished watching the movie, I don't know about like anyone else. I left that movie ready to fight everyone. Like, for no reason,
You're
not
pumped
because
up, ready
I was
to go?
angry or anything. I'm like, no, I can do it.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
I think it was like first scene for me. I saw Oakland. I was like, oh hell yeah! This is,
Yeah.
It's like, wait,
I know that street, fam. Like,
okay.
My friend Toyosi, she lives in Oakland. She watched it in Oakland, and when the word Oakland like appeared on the screen, like as soon as they showed it, the entire theater erupted. She said it was like a minute of just pure
Cheers
unadulterated cheers of joy.
Hell yeah.
oh yeah.
And like
what we want.
by the time they made it into the thing, like they started talking, like people finally started settling down. But it was crazy.
Oh, that's
No.
cool. Yeah.
No.
Brian, I saw it with you, but I mean,
Yeah. Like I think we love the movie. Obviously. I liked it the second time around because I could kind of pay attention to what was going on.
The nuance.
Yeah, like all the little things, the stuff with the story and some of the plot and dialogue, but then also like the costumes, the background, the special
yeah.
That's when I like, because the first
Pay attention to
screening
detail.
you're just taking everything in and you're like, oh shit, this is awesome, and you're like, okay, second time around, okay, that like I know this is coming up, I'm still gonna pay attention.
You can put your attention elsewhere.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Check out the background stuff. Yeah, I think we saw it and the theater was full. I think everybody liked it, but it was kind of a boring theater.
yeah. Let's talk about audiences real quick.
Yes.
Our audience was first of all, our audience was
Wait, what time did you go? And
we went
We
at
were
7:30 on
Oh.
Thursday night.
Oh, no.
that's probably why.
The very first showing, and I went fully expecting like because everybody I knew was like, oh, I am going in full on traditional outfits. We're
Absolutely.
gonna
I
roll into this theater,
I didn't have time to buy it.
and I think we had like maybe 2 little small groups in our theater, but largely it was Latino and white.
Yeah.
And it was quiet.
Yeah, there was not a lot of cheering. Like when stuff
was-
happened, like
Oh.
When
not a
we
lot of
left,
clapping.
people were coming in droves, and it was much
you went at
more.
7:30 on
Very,
Yeah.
But no, we
We were
always
just getting done.
we typically always do that though.
they came in like droves right after that,
Yeah.
and we were walking out, and they were, everybody was coming in. I'm like, oh, here's the party.
Here's the big part. Yeah.
Yeah.
7:30 rolled around, and
Which is weird because we lately with the movies we've been typically going at 7:00.
Yeah.
yeah.
And 7. Yeah, actually no, pretty much the first showing because I'm like I need to see this as soon as possible.
So our theater was just so quiet and like just
They just saw the movie.
they cheered at the end.
Yeah.
But like I remember somebody who came with us was like right after something happened, and she was like, woo, and she was all excited, and then she was like, I guess it's just me here.
Oh, that was not the case.
Oh, yeah.
With-
I
and
didn't,
that's-
I didn't have a super vocal crowd, but I definitely didn't have a quiet crowd. I think
Okay.
it was like me and maybe like 20 other people in this theater, mind you.
Mm-hmm.
I think the theater has to seat well beyond 50 people.
Right.
Sure.
But me and 20 other people, just different moments throughout the movie where like this half of us are loud because we picked up on something, and then everybody else is like, oh shit, yeah.
Oh, okay,
and
yeah.
then like
Like a delayed response.
yeah, it's like, oh, we didn't catch that. And then
Yeah.
that one moment, that one line that Shuri drops.
I love fixing broken white boys.
no.
No, not that one.
Did he?
the what are
pause?
those lines?
The real question is, what are those? Why do you have your toes
Like,
out?
I've
freeze?
never heard a collective groan from like people in the theater. I was like,
Oh,
sneakers.
yeah.
Guess what I call them? Sneakers. Because you... Never mind.
Yeah, Snickers is
So
good.
that was, but it's like a good one. Where she was like, I need shoes.
Sneakers.
Oh, sneakers.
Yeah, just say it was a laugh.
Our theater laughed, but it was like a quick, easy.
We were all like, get back in immediately.
Yeah.
Colonizers was the big
Colonizers was such a good line.
And I was...
in fact, our theater, like a lot of our theater, groaned, and I was busted up laughing.
Because there are two things that I knew in this movie that were going to be a thing now. I was like, colonizers, I was like, oh,
yeah.
That's it.
That's
totally.
Has to be. There's so many.
There are so many, but the other one, oh god, what was it?
Do you challenge today?
There will be no challenge
There will
today.
be no challenge
Wait, there's
today.
another one now.
No.
There's
Near the end.
yeah.
Oh my god.
I was like, no.
Yeah, I was like,
We're never gonna make a point.
yeah, exactly. I was going to say, like, I hope I never see that because once it starts, I can't stop.
You can't stop.
I was like,
You have to be a part of it. You're just like,
Just
Oh, yeah.
jump in.
the first guy to say, I don't want to be racist, but
It's like you started that sentence. You're gonna be racist.
Yeah.
So
That's how that works.
Yeah.
Nothing good follows that statement.
Yeah, no,
Nothing.
I think every black person in Seattle I've ever seen just came out of the woodwork. So I was just like, what? Who are you, bro? Like,
Where did you guys come from?
I live in Westlake, sir. I didn't know there was this many of us here. Like, what?
I relieved in the tree. What's happening?
There was supposed to be the meeting before this, and I didn't get
Did you be
it.
surprised?
Did not get the memo.
Slightly startled.
Yeah.
Like, we have an email. There's a chain.
Exactly.
That y'all were all here.
Exactly. This was
Well,
ridiculous.
So that's cool because that brings me to like my second viewing.
Mm-hmm.
We went. So Bryce and I saw it Thursday. Saturday, I went with some other friends down here in Burbank, and the theater was just full of everybody's dressed up, ready to
In
go.
Burbank?
Yeah.
That surprises me.
Kind of. Well, then come to find out, so middle of the movie, everybody's busting up laughing, they're clapping, they're cheering. This is a way more fun audience.
Yeah.
Everybody's in on it together. The movie's going on, and then this big old group towards the right is just cheering and clapping way more. We're like, okay, that's cool, awesome. We're like, what do they? I don't.
Yeah.
Okay, nothing big happened. So it turns out one of the actresses that played one of the Dora Milaje was in the theater with us, and she had a crew of like 20 with her. That's
Nice.
even better. She was one of the ones that went one-on-one with Killmonger at the end.
Oh.
The one that died.
Yeah.
Her crew didn't know, and she even you can see her. She was kind of like waiting for it.
Yeah,
She knew.
She's like, "Here
And
it goes."
oh man, they like erupted. Like, no!
She's
Everyone- and they're like, we feel you, like you know her, so that's cool too. But like, we're on the same level because like the entire fight sequence at the end of the movie was just so.
I
Oh
also
my
like
gosh.
that's
Awesome
what I
all
also
over
like
the
about it
place,
is that
but-
it wasn't jam packed with a bunch of fight scenes.
Yeah.
No.
That was one of my
No buildings
fears.
collapsed, and I was really happy about
Right,
that.
and what fight scenes there were important and
Wait,
integral to the plot.
Absolutely.
No, the building didn't collapse. You're right. A wall collapsed, but not. A
And I
building.
mean, some serious car explosions, but like,
Yeah.
But no, like-
we're escaping the building collapsing, the Marvel 2015
Oh, yeah.
formula.
Oh yeah.
Uh-huh. But anyways, yeah, so like my second viewing was way more fun and I enjoyed it a lot better, partially because of the audience and partially because I could just see what was going on in the background and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, and one of the things that I always do when I go see movies is check for stuff in the background.
'Cause Marvel
when I
movies.
when I watch when I saw Star Wars, I kept leaning over and I'm like, we have to talk about this.
Yeah.
Holy
Yeah, we
shit,
did.
That's so and so from such and such book.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like I was constantly looking for every little thing I could.
Yeah.
I couldn't do that in this movie. Like at one point, I leaned over to Brian and I was like, "I'm really proud of my African heritage right now." And, I'm like,
Yeah.
and like that's about it. The rest of it, I was just so sucked into this
yeah.
film because it was just as a film so solid.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
there wasn't time to like analyze because it was awesome. Oh God, it was so good.
Well, maybe
Losing it.
Maybe you could speak to this, but like I noticed with most black films that I've watched in the past, because we don't get that much opportunity to get to the main spot, we condense everything that we're dealing with within like a beat or a moment or like an image. So you could watch one scene of like, I'm trying to find a perfect example in the movie. You know, I watched the breakdown that he had. Ryan Coogler, I think it was with Vanity Fair.
With the fight scene?
With the fight scene.
Oh my god, that was amazing. Did you end up watching that?
I haven't gotten to see it.
Oh, but like there's so many images and symbols for the African diaspora.
Everything is broken down from the...
I'm sorry, side note, even though, like, I know you got your thing. She threw that wig, I think I lost my mind.
Oh, and that's one of the things they focused on.
Yes!
It was so good.
Like, even though I knew it was coming, and it was like, when she threw it, I was like, yes! I'm
Yeah.
like, you
Oh yeah, and that was one of the things that Cooler talked about. He's like, we wanted her to do that, and like we had to naturally put it in there, and his breakdown of just the entire scene. Turns out that was one of the first scenes they shot for the entire movie.
Yeah.
And it's like, we wanted to do this. It sets the tone for the whole thing.
Yeah, man.
And it got us going,
There's not one weak link in this movie.
No.
I'm shocked at that. Like, every character is very well thought out. Every storyline I thought was...
It had everything from any Marvel movie that I'd ever seen that I liked.
The good parts.
And, like, all the good stuff.
Yeah.
And
some of the best written villains.
The one thought that I had in the middle
But they were relatable.
Oh, yeah.
They were relatable.
Which is what I liked about Homecoming, because the Vulture,
Vulture was...
By the end of that movie, I was like, I feel for this guy. Like,
I understand what he did. It doesn't make it right, but I get it.
Right.
And it's the idea that, like, it's not... These characters aren't evil.
Right.
You know, this isn't a bad guy who's evil. It's a character who doesn't know that there's a better way or has decided he's given up on it.
There truly was no better way.
Right.
Yeah. And that's
deal
with
with
this,
cards
like,
he's given.
It's such a brilliant, like, you know, everybody in that film, of good or bad, has a motivation that is complicated.
Yeah, I mean...
Even Claw, who was amazing, and I'm really bummed they killed him off so quick.
Yeah. He turned into pure sound.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's too
He's
much.
supposed to turn into pure sound.
That's way too much for
and
them
then
to
come
do
back
right
as
now.
an insane man.
He already is insane.
I mean,
he wasn't.
I think with anything dealing with black culture here in America, you got to kind of deal with it in a very kind of complicated, weighted manner. I guess that's more the word I'm looking for, because, you know, if we're going to go and divulge into this type of world, you know, we got to admit all guilt before we enter into
all guilt.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is something that I really, really appreciated, that they, like, really just laid it on.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't apologize for that.
All the guilt. You know, you need to be upfront about, like, how many different things have gone wrong on all sides, which I appreciated.
It deals almost with the perception of it. Like, I remember first impressions at the end of the movie when they changed the headquarters from going to Harlem into Oakland.
Oh yeah,
I was just like, "Whoa, that's a big shift and change." But
it's a big shift and
well,
change,
you've lived in New York, you know what Harlem's like.
Yeah.
Also,
I didn't even think about that. Yeah, you're right.
It's with keeping the movie in line. It's keeping it current.
Yeah.
Because at the time of Black Panther comics, Harlem was the big problem city. Was the big major area for issues in the black community.
Absolutely.
And that's not to say that there weren't issues in Oakland and other heavily populated cities, but it was Harlem. It was New York, and that's where most Marvel comics are centered around, is New York.
That's true.
So I appreciate that they were keeping it current, because Harlem is its own thing now.
Yeah.
It's definitely not Harlem.
No, it's not.
It's not Harlem in the 50s and the 60s.
Well, tell us what Harlem's like right now.
Harlem's Disneyland, basically. Like, I walked by the Apollo; it's all neoned out, and like I was just like, "This is not what I imagined." Exactly. You walk down streets and you hear stories of, you know, the Harlem Renaissance, and they're like, "Oh, they lived there, but they just tore down that building for a Burger King." You're
It's
like,
really interesting that they're doing that, though, because I would assume that a lot of those buildings are like historical monuments.
Yeah, there's only, I think, one. And I'm gonna fact check this later, but I think it's just the old location of the Cotton Club that they.
And they can't get rid of that.
And they can't get rid of that.
I have no ties to the Cotton Club whatsoever. But if you're like, look on the internet, it's like, so book a flight to New York, gotta go protest. Go protest the
It's
Cotton
about
Club
to
being
get
torn
real.
down.
Yeah, it's about to get real. But yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's Oakland is more relevant and.
Well, have you heard what Disney's doing?
No.
Disney has taken profits from Black Panther and has put it into an actual STEM program that they're implementing in Oakland. They're building a freaking Wakanda STEM program place in real life.
Will they have a space Bugatti?
Yeah.
That's my question.
Will they have a space Bugatti?
That's all I want.
Yeah, that's
right outside the building.
Yeah.
But
it should.
Yeah, I thought, but the ending in Oakland I thought was dope, and then the other part of me was just like goes into a weird tangent, and I have family who has background in the actual Panthers, and so it kind of hit me kind of weird. I was just like, I appreciate what they're doing and everything else like that, but then I also think like, what the real Panthers did, like,
yeah,
that was amazing. Like the fact that these college kids organized
so much,
and outran the U.S. government. Like, like they were invited into communist China before the U.S. did.
The U.S. was,
That's nuts.
That's huge. Yeah.
Healthcare, education, tons of benefits. Come from this, and that's kind of what
school programs,
this Wakanda
community programs in general were huge.
Yes.
And community outreach in general.
Yeah. And so,
I think they organized some of the first food banks for African American communities.
Yeah, I've seen some of those pictures. It's really cool.
It's insane.
No, it's remarkable what they did. And so, I there was a slight moment of that. I was like, I was like, somebody did this.
This was
this was real this way, but no, and then I watched it the second time. I was like, okay, I get it.
It makes sense for the MCU and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. No.
Cool.
All right. So we kind of got our initial reactions from the movie. Went off with that a little bit. And what do we...
Oh, so, okay. Let's talk history.
Yeah.
History.
So the industry at the time is largely dominated. We're in the, this is the 60s.
It was...
So it's the Silver Age.
Yes.
Before the death of Gwen Stacy and the needle and the damage done.
Yes, so...
Guys?
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. I had to.
Woo! So before the death of Gwen Stacy, the night Gwen Stacy died...
what year was that?
That was 73, I want to say.
So...
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. So, Black Panther's first appearance was actually in Fantastic Four number 52 in 1966.
Okay, so we're still in the Silver Age. We're coming to the end of Kirby is about to leave.
Era,
Kirby's going to leave and go over to DC. So we're well into we've left Cowboys. We're out of the early parts of the Silver Age. This is when things are starting to get a little bit more serious.
Yeah, more.
We're still under the comic code of authority.
Right.
So we still have rules like the bad guy must always lose, and we still have to avoid drug use and things like that.
Yeah. But it's starting to get more realistic.
For sure. I mean, the point at which they're like, okay, we're officially in the Bronze Age, the Silver Age is done, is when comics start dealing with things like drug problems and death.
Starts to get real.
It starts to get real.
It gets gritty.
And, this is... So we're still kind of in the middle of the Stan and Jack show, and featuring Steve. And T'Challa shows up to fight the Fantastic Four.
Something like that. I didn't read the issue.
From everything I read in the Black Panther Encyclopedia that I found at Barnes & Noble and sat down like a child in the middle of the aisle reading.
Seats there.
Yeah, but I have to go out to the magazine rack where the weirdos are.
Wait, which ones? Anyway.
There are a lot of, there's a lot of weirdos by the magazines, I will be honest.
Well,
there are several other places to sit.
There's a lot of weirdos in the comic aisle, too, but they're my weirdos.
Case in point.
Exactly.
This podcast very much just indicated me.
So, anywho...
Back on topic.
Sort of.
So T'Challa shows up to challenge the Fantastic Four and kind of prove himself.
Right.
Because he has to go back and deal with his throne issues, and I think he's facing off with... I want to say it's M'Baku or one of those guys.
Yeah, M'Baku. I think it is M'Baku, but he's called a different character. I know it has to do with the actual, they called him the Man-Ape. Man-Ape.
I don't know why that was funny to me.
Man-Ape.
Man-Ape. Got it.
And I remember
Mayonnaise.
No, not to be confused with
Why
mayonnaise.
is they not showing up
Yeah.
here?
Bird person or whatever he's called over
Yeah, it's still pretty similar, but
The
they just
Inhumans are
didn't-
in there.
He
That's
actually
fun.
turns into an ape.
Like his father in the Panthers 4, I mean, this is a past meteorite. Oh, wow.
I think they'll turn it into a suit or something like that.
First appearance, now adult, invites the American superhero team, the Fantastic Four, to Wakanda, and then he attacks them. Okay, he attacks them
He brought them to
and attempts to
his
neutralize
house.
them individually in order to test himself to see if he's ready to battle Claw.
Oh,
So
he's
Claw
building
had
himself.
appeared in Fantastic Four initially. That's his first appearance, was in Fantastic Four.
That's really shady, though.
And yeah,
Hey,
Right.
come on over.
come on over. And this divide and conquer. Divide and conquer on your own turf? Come on, T'Challa. Like,
yeah.
That's that is the layout of a horror movie. It's, hey, come hang out.
Yeah.
Everything's
I've seen that
great.
movie before.
And then slowly but surely you're all getting picked off one by one. Oh, what
Yeah.
happened to Julie?
I don't know, we're just
Julie
here.
who?
Just
We're
us,
just having a good
just
time.
us 4 white dudes in a forest here. Getting picked off one by one.
Nothing goes wrong.
Just 2 white dudes, a white girl, and a rock.
Yeah.
Dwayne Rock Johnson was there.
Rock Johnson. He's Hawaiian.
Oh my god.
He's a rock.
So,
Anyway, so he invites the Fantastic Four over for like the worst party ever, and they manage to rally and stymie T'Challa and a team counterattack because they divide and conquer didn't work too well, which he's like, that's impressive, good idea, I'm gonna stand down and explain myself, right, because that's when you start talking.
Would they have listened?
never monologue.
Yeah. Come on.
And then
Would they have listened?
he eggs them against Psycho Man, and then he joins the Avengers later, and then he first battles the Man-Ape while with the group. The first time he's actually battling Man-Ape, I think, is with the Avengers.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the
I'm
Wikia
sorry.
for Fantastic Four 52, and the Inhumans are there too.
I guess there's an Inhuman show up.
So
wow.
basically,
It was a party.
Bryce and I haven't really read a lot of these because we're not Dave. Growing up, I grew up with the X-Men.
Yeah.
And then later on, kind of the Avengers, and then I got back into it. That was in the mid 90s, and then I got back into it late 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
And so Black Panther was kind of around, and he married Storm at this point.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, cool, whatever. Where's my X-Men?
Way to take Storm away from us and make her go deal with Wakanda problems.
I mean,
Right.
Because
But
Storm's
apparently
not
it was
like
really good.
Wolverine, where she's in every book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When she was gone. She was gone.
She was busy.
Yeah.
She was
had
busy.
shit to do.
She had a country to run.
She's a queen. Like, come on. Yeah.
Queen and a god.
Right.
Yeah. What do you-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. So, like, I never really got into Black Panther up until Hickman's run, which comes up a lot now. You should get on that, Bryce.
I know.
His Avengers run, which Avengers Infinity War, coming out this year, is slightly based off of that run. Yeah, so Black Panther's in there, and that's when I kind of start noticing more.
Gotcha.
But I haven't really had a chance to go back and reread, his early stuff. So that's why I don't really know a whole lot.
Right. Well, Steven's
or
kind of
either
our
of us,
historian right now for real historian. We have our
Right.
video game historian with Nick. We've got our comic book historian with Dave, and now we have our actual historian type person
Yeah.
with Brian, with Steven. Yeah. So Steven, what's going on in the world in 1960? What is it? 6.
Hold on, let me bring out my notes.
I got notes.
I got note.
You're our historian here for this subject.
Yeah.
What is happening in 1966 when Black Panther first invites the Fantastic Four for the worst party ever?
For a great picnic.
For a great picnic.
For the shitty picnic.
The
Shitnik.
The Vietnam War is in full blast right now, and we are in major protest area.
Thousands of demonstrators opposed to the Vietnam War assembled in the nation's capital for a mass protest. For the most part orderly, minor scuffles did occur between the demonstrators and hecklers.
There are race riots going on everywhere. There is major legislation on the floor to talk about voting rights. The Civil Rights Act of '64 has already been signed, but is starting to get ratified everywhere.
It's slowly starting to be enforced.
Slowly starting to be enforced. And so, you still have major problems. Lyndon Johnson is still kind of struggling with the idea of what equality looks like. We are launching into space pretty
soon there.
Pretty soon. Gemini is launched, Gemini 10. And then we have kind of the beginning of the space race between, not the beginning of the space race, but we're kind
of right in the middle of it.
We're right in the middle of
But
it.
nothing's actually happened
So,
yet.
Yeah.
on this note, one of the key aspects of the Silver Age is how much science
Yeah.
is
Starting to play
what
into
pushes
everything.
it. Because up in
Absolutely.
the later half of the Gilded Age, we start moving on towards the Gilded Age. That's a much different time. That's
in the whole nother game.
That's That's another podcast about some crappy times. Industrial Revolution and the Golden Age. One of the big things is science is what motivates almost all of these characters. You have the Atom, who is a short guy.
Yeah.
Now he's a guy who can shrink to the size of an atom. The Fantastic Four are scientists.
Right.
We're leaving cowboys and westerns and things like that behind.
Right.
And the space race is a huge, huge aspect of that.
Right.
And I think it's
Fantastic Four go to space.
the Fantastic,
That's where they get the
Fantastic
powers.
Four go
Yeah.
to space. That's
Yeah.
how they get the powers.
Absolutely.
So, going on that, just building on that with where we're going at, because obviously this is important to
Things are getting real. Things are getting sciencey.
Yeah, it's starting
Real
to get
sciencey.
it's getting real sciencey, and then Ronald Reagan is elected governor of California, so you start to see the polarizing change of going a lot more conservative, and this kind of paints the picture for a Nixon era kind of coming through, because after Johnson, you're kind of like rallying back from what JFK is going through, like the assassination, and what the Black Panther Party is starting to form out in Oakland. They don't have that name per se. There is a smaller group out of Alabama that they kind of form off into.
Oh, okay.
I don't want to ruin any names before saying something, but
we have some social activists without social media to bind them, so it's quite the
Right.
effort to make sort of
Absolutely.
cross-state connections.
Yes, and so they are just starting to get organized in Oakland. You start to see kind of remnants of this really popping up with the first health center and the self-defense laws. So the big thing about the Panthers were they were just a police force for primary the neighborhoods in Oakland that
Open
were
carry private militia.
Oh yeah, because cops were not coming to Oakland when all of these race riots were going on.
Yeah.
And
Or staying away.
No-go zones.
there are no-go zones, and then the other part of it is California in particular has a issue with white supremacy as a set in law enforcement, as in former KKK members are getting in to the police force in Oakland. There's a
There's a
internal
Rage Against the Machine song.
yeah, there's going to be an investigation later on in the early 70s that proves that this is a problem and a major issue, and kind of goes down to where we are, and the KKK kind of runs up and has like a big resurgence in California in particular.
Crazy.
I mean, not only in Oakland but Central Valley. It all blows.
Kind of everywhere.
It starts to blow up everywhere.
Man.
So it's a very tumultuous time.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So all of this is going on, and Jack Kirby and Stan Lee and Steve Ditko over in the Stan and Jack show featuring Steve.
Yeah.
They come forward and they give us a character called Black Panther.
Yeah.
Now, does the character Black Panther come out after the name Black Panther has come out?
It
Or
is.
before?
The Panthers are after the first issue of the Black Panther, so it actually precedes it.
Oh, okay.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah.
Okay, but it is initially he's just a character who says,
Yeah.
"Come to Africa,
Yeah.
come see my super badass sciencey town," which is really cool and really progressive. of him.
Yeah.
I'll give you a plane.
Yeah.
I'll
Space
give
Bugatti.
I'll give you a space
Bugatti.
Bugatti. You come on over, have this picnic. Oh, by the way, I'm fighting you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But before he goes and gets his own series, initially this is just an African man doing his thing,
Yeah.
right? So then he shows up with Captain America again 2 years later in 1968.
Yeah. And with 68 is the big year.
Yeah. So Captain America, he shows up with Tales of Suspense, and he journeyed from the fictional African nation of Wakanda to New York City to join the Avengers in 1968, and he appears in the comic for the next few years before he gets some guest appearances in Daredevil and in Astonishing Tales, and then he eventually shows up in his starring feature is Jungle Action number 5, which was 1973. So he starts in 1966, but he is sporadic until 68, and then he moves along with the Avengers for a while, wherein they deal with Wakanda problems and his problems, and a lot of his character really gets developed as an African man in America. So what happens in 68, Stephen?
68 is a major year. You lose Dr. King.
Dr. Martin Luther King, the apostle of nonviolence in the civil rights movement, has been shot to death in Memphis, Tennessee.
You lose Dr. King. You've already lost Malcolm X. The final Civil Rights Act of 68 is signed.
That message called for the enactment, and I quote, of the first effective federal law against discrimination in the sale and the rental of housing in the United States of America.
The one in 68 is significant because it has to do with the Fair Housing Act. So there's no more discrimination or supposed discrimination when somebody wants to rent a house.
No more red line neighborhood.
There goes the neighborhood.
Exactly. You know, and that was tied in with the Voting Rights Act after King was assassinated.
Gotcha.
That act doesn't that issue still persists. By the way.
No, that's exactly. That's very much a problem you can see here in Los Angeles.
Definitely. Well, so he moved into Captain America: Tales of Suspense. He moved in with Captain America to Tales of Suspense for issues 97 through 100, which is really cool that he got to be in the 100th issue. But and then the next month he was in the Avengers. So that year, while all that's going on, like started January, you know, everything that's going on through there, that's when he starts becoming a regular character in these comic books, being on the shelf with everybody else. Because if you're next to Captain America, you ain't getting put aside.
And because he does appear in Captain America 100, and he's right behind Captain America, and he's the next biggest character on the cover. Which is huge.
Treating him with respect for sure.
And it's really cool that he's popping up in all these small minor roles, but he's still popping up a lot throughout these years until he gets his own series, and that really kind of shows that people like this character and they want more of him.
Right.
And you also have to realize, like, for the most part, there's no, I don't think major, I preference this with, I am not from the 60s, so I don't know the culture of that time. I can only go off what my aunts and uncles and what I've kind of pieced together, what they enjoyed in that pop culture. Comic books is not on their radar.
Right.
You know, if you're not on television, or you haven't written a book, or you haven't been published in some type of way.
Or radio.
Or radio. Radio is huge.
Radio
is huge at that time. Like, you're not on the radar within black culture. So, like, the only thing I can really think of right now is maybe, Star Trek is major right now because there's a black character on television. And then leading the show.
But everybody who talks to her, she's the linguist. Everybody who needs information to communicate gets to communicate through her. Which is super cool. Makes her incredibly important on a show about talking to alien species. You know.
True.
So Marvel comes out, eventually gives us Jungle Action number 5, and then 6 through 24, which take place all the way through from September 1973 all the way to November 1976. That was the final arc for that character, and that was Panther versus the Klan. Which, at this point, you know, we talked about the Klan being sneaking into the police forces and things like that.
I wouldn't say sneaking.
Exactly.
I wouldn't say sneaking. It wasn't like they were
there. Going into the police force. But there's still a presence of the Klan. And to make it worse, one of the main Klan members that the Black Panther fights against is the Soul Strangler, like a man who wields a noose like a lasso.
Yeah.
Like that's dark.
Yeah.
That's some dark,
a villain. They wanted a villain for this, and they were like, we need to give him a formidable villain. And he was like, all right, well, here's your villain. And they tried to veto it at first. They're like, no, you can't have Black Panther fighting the Klan. He's like, well, this is what I got.
Yeah. It was considered controversial in the Marvel offices at the time, and it created difficulties for the creative team. And at this point, Jack's left, and we're moved on to, Don McGregor moves on with the story. It doesn't actually pick up again for another several issues, and it's not until issues
51 through 53.
Yeah, 51, 52, and 53 that they finally revisit this issue again. And in it,
it's hard.
They start it with here's what happened back before we left this issue behind, and then they give a little amnesia story for Black Panther that he doesn't entirely remember everything that's going on.
Yeah.
So he hasn't taken care of this problem entirely yet. But then they close out the story finally because it hadn't been addressed even when Kirby had come back.
Yeah.
So that's the Marvel
Universe right there.
Marvel Universe, what they're doing with Black Panther at the time.
That's 79.
Which is huge.
Yeah.
I mean, growing up, how many characters did you read even in the 90s? Like, how many characters did you read that were black?
Not a whole lot.
No.
Storm.
Yep. You
maybe the Falcon, but he was on the down low.
Falcon was on the down low in the 90s for sure.
Yeah.
Spawn.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't see major.
Blade's comic book.
That's why I was Blade, not Blade.
You don't see major representation with the major publishers. Like small independents, they're kind of going on.
Yeah, a little bit. But,
well, in the 90s, they're all starting to very quickly die off because of some monopolization of production rights, which we will get to in a whole other podcast.
Yeah. That one's actually happening, though.
Yeah, that one actually is happening. Unlike the rest of our other podcasts, that's another podcast. Those will happen eventually too. We'll do That's Another Podcast.
Yeah, we do all of this. Yeah. Someone give us a list if you're listening.
Yeah, someone just
Tommy, Eric.
I know you've listened to these enough. So, that's.
But yeah, there's not a whole lot of any color. Brown, black.
Yeah.
None.
Yeah. Not a lot of culture.
Yeah.
But comic books at that time, I think, are seen as uniquely American.
Well, comic books are
and Belgian, but not superhero. Superhero comics specifically are very uniquely American.
Yeah. But if I remember correctly, there's two things culturally that America is known for creating, and it's jazz and comic books. Those are the two things that we can culturally say originated here. Jazz originated in America.
The Japanese have some words to say to you, Alita.
Oh, sure.
But I don't see any black people down there in Japan. Let's keep it funky.
These are our gods. This is our mythology.
Yeah.
Like superheroes, Captain America,
I mean, superheroes came about in a time where we needed. Superheroes came about in a time where we needed that glimmer of hope, that symbol of things will get better, or it could be better, or
yeah.
We
needed to see the pinnacle of human achievement, and as well as the pinnacle of human goodness.
Yeah.
Because we're talking Schuster and Siegel are in the middle of the Depression when they start Superman. And Captain America punches Hitler in the face. And
such a good cover.
We start moving towards science when science is the crowning human achievement.
Yeah.
Comics reflect what we as humans really desire to happen in humanity, and we have this period of time where not a lot of people like Superman because he's too perfect. Now they're starting to make him a little bit more human again, and he's a lot more easy to read. Thanks, Mark Waid.
Yeah.
But with comics, you always have this sort of desire to see what people can do when they're given something great. Mm-hmm. And I think T'Challa is a perfect example of what could happen in an ideal scenario for an African country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then he goes to New York and hangs out with the Avengers for 3 years.
Yeah.
And in that time period, that's when you start seeing his he's got an embassy, he's a diplomat, he's a king, so he's got to run his own country and, report back to his own country.
Right.
And he's running a foundation in Harlem, to the betterment of mankind,
right,
as well as specifically the people of Harlem.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, around that time, we also have Luke Cage in Iron Fist, which is a whole different problem. June 1972.
June 1972.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Hero for Hire debuts in 1972, so we don't even see Luke Cage or that gritty aspect of Harlem from the perspective of an insider until
a couple years later,
the 70s.
Yeah.
So
I mean, if you look at the cultural history, it makes sense because Nixon's in the White House now, and then the war on drugs is.
Yeah.
Oh, the war on drugs!
Ooh,
such a crazy war.
Such a crazy war.
We lost, fam. We lost.
Did we ever really fight it though? Come on.
Dare will have something to say about that.
Yeah.
Somebody.
Dare.
Seems like somebody
The
would
good
want to say
people.
about
My
everything.
dare officer, Officer Jack. He told me everything I need to know to find drugs if I want them.
They're trying to bring Dare back off. Yeah, so they're like down in Orange County. There's a couple people that
That
are trying
happened
to.
in Hollywood.
Yeah,
I was
and it's
like
like
walking up the street.
You,
I mean,
it's like
I
you
want
guys
that
know
their shirt, but
They didn't have shirts.
Oh, see,
they
these
didn't
guys
have
did.
shirts. I was.
I need a
deeply
pencil.
hurt.
I need a shirt, and I need a dare dance. If I don't get those three things, I don't care what you have to do about drugs.
A dare
man.
dance. See, we weren't good
I don't
enough
think
to
we
have a
ever
dare dance.
Yeah, I didn't get
I think they brought it up and that nobody was really interested. So maybe they did, and I just didn't go because
I didn't know the dare dance. You kidding?
Actually, now that I think about it, I didn't even get a dare pencil. It was literally just shirts.
oh man.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I was like hype about a shirt, but
Yeah.
they're like the school provides me pencils.
Oh man, yeah.
We don't gotta get that from us.
Yeah. I saw these guys a couple months ago. I'm like, you guys know this doesn't work.
Because they were like
We're
in
starting
the.
with fear.
They're like in the heart of Hollywood, like, like advocating the dare, the
I'm
dare
gonna
program.
remove probably all of this
That's all right.
for the record, but
It's like they were advocating like the dare program, and I'm like, cool, that's great. No, like read the room.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
on.
Read the room.
Read the room.
You're on like Hollywood and Vine. These are all adults.
Tourists.
Drugs, probably.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's a school 6 blocks down.
Right. You should be over that
You
way.
should be there.
Yeah.
Because these people walking by in their day to day don't care.
I just saw this dude get blasted off.
Like,
Yeah.
several people on the sidewalk are high.
Yeah. There's
not
a
all
drug deal
three.
going on like 2 blocks ago. Like, come
You're
on.
probably a drug
last
dealer
night
yourself.
the basement of this building was a rave.
Until the wee hours of the morning. It's probably still a rave. For
They're probably
somebody.
still going. Hear that?
Come on,
There's
man.
drugs.
Downstairs, dude.
Anyway.
Wait, I was also offended because like they did try to speak to me and I'm like, I'm an adult. I know I look like a teenager, but I'm out here at like 1 o'clock on a Monday afternoon. I'm not a student.
Yeah.
I
Not
left
a
my
student.
job, sir.
Yeah.
I am a whole grown person with bills.
I'm a grown person with bills. I'm not going to go so far as to say I'm an adult, but I'm
Right.
a grown person with bills.
I have bills to pay,
I'm too
and I am
broke for
solely
drugs.
responsible for them.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Nixon era war on drugs.
We're in the Nixon era, we're in the war on drugs. The economy is in shaky
Shambles.
place. Shambles, Oil shortages.
Mm-hmm.
I say that in quotations.
This is a
podcast.
He just did some air quotes.
You know what that means, guys.
We're short on oil.
Yeah.
Guys.
Yeah, but big energy crisis.
Big energy crisis.
Blackouts are happening all over the place.
Absolutely. And then, the...
Everything that you saw in the Get Down is happening.
Yeah.
It went down.
It's getting real.
Yeah.
It's getting real.
And there's like a new... Culturally, there's like an explosion happening as well.
Oh, yeah.
You've got the birth of hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You've got we're moving away from blues revivalism.
Yep.
And moving into the beginnings of actually we're still in the thick of blues revivalism because Creedence goes on for another couple of years.
Yeah. And then John Fogerty does his own thing for a bit. And
Yeah.
But we've got a lot of growth happening in music moving towards disco, moving towards hip hop, moving towards just
punk music starts blowing up late 70s.
the idea of music and other arts as a culture, as a counterculture to what this is the point where all the kids who were raised just after the 50s are starting to be able to have a voice.
Oh yeah, and realize they had the voice.
They want that voice, and guess who's reading these comics? Is those kids.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, and so while it may not have been on the radar, in the '60s of all these adults who are dealing with these problems, because comic books, you know, are the you know, you get rid of your comic books at like age 12. You know, the idea of moving on, growing as a culture, but having grown up with this and taking it with you, is very new. Yeah. And so it's really cool because those kids who, you know, it was on their radar, and it mattered. Yeah. You know, and that's super cool.
And then once they start growing up, they find other kids who's going through the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's how these things start out.
The world gets smaller.
Yeah. The world starts getting smaller. We start sharing culture a little bit, and you start.
They start bleeding over.
Yep.
Stealing black music again.
Again? Stop.
Yeah.
Fair point.
Oh, boy.
We're stealing blues again.
We're stealing blues again.
And then give it about like 15 years, they'll go back to stealing hip hop.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I say 15 as if that's a long time. It's not.
No, it's not a long time. But no, it's. I mean, but it's not too indifferent what's going on now. I mean, you talked earlier about a culture needing superheroes.
Yeah, I mean,
what goes on between 2001 to now? I mean, you see
fear,
like
security theater.
Yeah, I mean, I think you
the
could
internet going crazy and everybody.
The internet.
Yeah,
just the internet.
The internet.
The internet.
The internet.
Its own thing.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, it's like the internet was obviously not completely a bad thing. You just mentioned like culture started bleeding over. People, you're finding
when you start to have a sharing of culture rather than just an assimilation of it.
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
But I mean, like for this specifically, that's what the internet helped do. It helped bring it helped people find like people.
Right.
Yeah.
Because before internet, you didn't have really a way to read. Like I have a friend who. I'm like, we've been friends for like 15 years. We've only met twice.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
But we became friends on the internet.
Yeah.
And
it's totally common now.
Yeah, but like...
You don't even see their faces. It's crazy.
I had a brief conversation with Alita on set, but Instagram is like the reason that you're here.
Yeah,
because
for sure.
we've been talking on Instagram for like a month, you know?
Cool.
Yeah.
Because she's a jackass who has way too many pens.
Wow, that just got real.
I understand exactly what that struggle is about. I am driving a struggle bus and she is out there crossing guard. How many pens do you have, Leah? How many pens?
153. I have never been called out so hard.
I felt that over here.
I've been called out for so many things, and it's like it's never hit me until like that moment. It's like, yeah, she has too many pens. It's like,
I have too many pens.
I do.
I have pens on that fridge. I have pens upstairs in the
I
cup.
guess I'll probably think that, but yeah, I got.
Oh no!
So I was in a car accident, and I have to like clean out my car to make it obviously presentable for the person to come check out my car, so they can find out how much money.
Get that money.
And so like I opened my center console, and there's like 7 pens. I was like, okay, it's not as bad as I thought. And then I was like, there's some in the glove box. And I opened the glove box, and it still didn't look like that many.
Okay.
Still didn't look like that many. No, it didn't look like that many. And then I realized, I was like, okay, cool. Well, I still have like the owner's manual in the car. Yeah. Lifted that up, underneath, nothing but pens. And I was like, it had to be like this deep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is a podcast.
Yeah.
She's indicating something about the size of a shoebox.
Yeah, and like, I went and grabbed a handful. I have small hands, so I was like, when I grabbed a handful, did make a dent. And I'm just pulling pen. I'm on the phone with my mom, and I'm like,
oh wow.
I'm slowly losing it. I'm like, what have I done? So I'm not a hoarder in any sense of the word, but I have a fear of not having a pen when I need one. So anytime that I come across a pen,
you have a pen collection.
Yeah, but I never used any of them after I took them. That was the problem. And I forgot they were there, but I don't know how I forgot they were there because, like, I was obviously adding to the collection at some point.
Yeah.
So, like, for my car has been here, in LA for 3 years, and I know that I've not added a single pen there in 3 years.
Oh my.
So those have all been there for about, like, 7 years.
Oh my gosh.
It's real bad.
So She talked about this on Instagram.
149 out of 153 of them still worked.
Yes! I'm glad you checked 149 pens.
I had nothing to do.
That's impressive.
So but because of Instagram, which isn't even, that's a whole different aspect of the internet. Now we all have the internet constantly.
Yeah.
You know, those first 5 years, we didn't have internet on our phones all the time.
Yeah, well,
You still said camera phone if your phone had a camera on it.
You know what I had to do to get internet? I had to go to the public library downtown Bakersfield. And I don't know if anybody remembers this. Like I'm
The Beal?
The Beal.
Shout out to the Beal.
Shout out
Hey,
to
Jasmine, worker at the Beal.
I was at the Beal library, and I had to go to like the computer lab, and you had to sign up for like
The computer lab. Wait, do you
For
remember the
computer
internet?
lab.
The internet, like CDs? Or you get a certain
AOL.
AOL.
yeah.
You get a certain amount of internet, like 10 hours of free internet.
Yeah.
And then everybody's in the
and then a
chat.
lifetime
They're
of
horrible.
posters.
And everybody's in the chat rooms.
Yeah.
Every single person's in the chat room because it's like the coolest thing was like we get to talk to somebody like around the world. Like, where are you?
Yeah.
Like, what are you
Did
doing?
you ever actually talk to anyone around the world? It was like
I did.
I never talked to anybody outside of the country. It was always
I
somebody
never
in a different
really
state.
did. I never really got into the chat room thing, but I was on some like
See,
message
I was
boards.
definitely on AOL Instant
Was kinda
Messenger, and I
got that, yeah.
I spent, what is it, 4 months of school learning keyboarding to type.
Yeah.
And my typing speed went up maybe like 10, 20 words per minute.
Oh,
and then
yeah.
I got AOL Instant Messenger, and I could. There was a point where I could type like 100 words per minute.
Oh, totally.
Oh yeah.
Not even thinking. I learned to stop looking at the keyboard because I didn't have time because they were messaging me back so fast.
Yeah.
You know, all you have to do is teach kids which fingers to go to and then put them in a message board. They'd be fine.
They'll figure it out themselves.
They got
But now we have people talking to each other, bringing it back.
Yeah.
Now we have people talking to each other about things that matter eventually.
absolutely.
I mean, we didn't even start sending each other pictures of cats until like 2007. I don't know how it took us so long, but I mean, but then it was flash cartoons like Frog in a Blender and Gerbil in a Microwave.
Yeah, man.
Oh, yeah.
They were cartoons.
Yeah.
They weren't real.
Right.
Yeah.
And they were little cartoon characters that talked shit at you while you kept pushing the settings up more and more and more.
I just remember internet games.
Yeah,
That's where I
like
made
Flash
all my friends
games
with.
and all this
Like,
stuff.
Yeah.
So-
Clip.
Anyway, bringing it way back,
Yeah.
the internet happened between 2001 and 2000 now.
Yeah. The internet happened, but also the culture of security. Now there's a foreign threat coming in and out. 9/11 was a big game changer for.
Oh, yeah.
It changed everything.
For everything.
Yeah. And
So it changed my airport time.
exactly.
I wasn't in an airport before 9/11.
And for the preference, I'm a flight attendant for a major airline, so I always talk to the senior flight attendants, and they're just like, "This job's not the same since 9/11." Like a lot of people quit. A lot of people were.
A lot of people quit us immediately knowing that it was going to be changing.
Yeah, they're just like culture completely shifts. Completely shifts. And you also have the new Jim Crow starting to kind of pick up within the prison culture. And primarily in California because you go from the state only running maybe 10, 15 prisons to 33 in the span of 1 decade.
Uh-huh.
Like it's
ridiculous.
It's ridiculous, and that's just state-run prisons. That's not
even
the private prisons that you guys see. That's
And
not.
that's nothing to say for the amount of people who were victims of hate crimes who were of Middle Eastern descent.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And all of the stuff that was going on with that major divide in humanity in American culture specifically. And that's what gives birth to characters like Kamala Khan.
Yeah.
Miss Marvel.
Yeah.
My favorite Pakistani superhero. I love her.
I don't know what this
He does.
This is my superhero stance, dog.
It's like your arms are just way too forward for
Yeah,
me.
they are.
All right. So comics reflect what the world needs.
Yes.
Or what it's going through.
Yeah.
Yeah, or what it's going through. It's a reflection of both the problems as well as potential hopes for relief. It's an escape.
It's an escape.
But it's also an escape that acknowledges what some of our problems are. It's why he fights the KKK when he does. It's why we have a Muslim superhero. Coming
Cat
out.
punched Hitler.
It's why Cat punched Hitler.
Yeah.
These characters. It's why two Jewish guys in the 30s wrote Superman.
Right.
This is the way it has always been, and it's a beautiful tradition.
Yeah.
And I think Black Panther very much encapsulates this concept very
totally.
much. And while he doesn't necessarily come into his own in full exciting like Black Panther Prime until the end of the 60s, his introduction, while it is kind of peppered at first, starts off at a time when people are still kind of being careful about that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But it definitely jumps into full mainstream sooner than most.
Absolutely.
Which I really appreciate.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Which leads us now to the state of the film industry versus, which is, with what's going on now. And specifically with superhero films.
Right.
So in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we have had major key players who are black from the very beginning.
Absolutely.
Rhodey was right there next to Iron Man, though he didn't get the suit in the first one.
Right.
But Rhodey was there. We had Terrence Howard, film one.
Yep.
Rhodey was military.
Yeah.
I mean, but let's give honor due to Wesley Snipes for kicking off Marvel before
Blade.
Like
Wesley Snipes wanted to start Black Panther. He wanted to do Black Panther.
Yeah.
And there wasn't money for it. There was CGI more than anything else was going to make that film terrible.
Oh
yeah.
And unfortunately, the 90s also didn't help.
I was going to say, maybe that was more fortunately, because I don't know if I would want to see Wesley Snipes as...
Honestly, like, one of the things I was excited about Black Panther was that Chadwick Boseman, who is from North Carolina, despite his fabulous accent, and I can attest to that, I'm a dialect coach.
Are you?
I am a dialect coach.
I swear I am.
I swear. People have paid me money to teach them how to talk funny.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he's got, he comes in there and he's got this just regalness, togetherness, and general just... He's as put together and confident as Captain America.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And that's really, really cool because he's got this sort of steadfast thing. Without the Captain America, like, I'm a weak, pile of bony goo before he turns into, full-on Captain America. This is a podcast. I'm flexing a lot.
Right.
But
throwing his shoulders forward, it's not really good for his shoulder girdle.
You just went through a whole thing of falling down a mountain. Don't do that.
Yeah.
That's another story for another time. I'll tell you that at the end of it.
Yeah.
But
it's a way different video blog.
And what I was really excited about is that we were getting a character who was going to be very, very unapologetically black and African specifically.
Yeah,
he wasn't going to be Will Smith in every Will Smith movie. That he plays a superhero type. He wasn't going to be Agent J. He wasn't going to be Hancock. This was like a lot of people were like, "Well, we already had a black superhero movie. It was called Hancock," and everyone was, everyone who saw Hancock,
shut up,
no,
stop it.
But he's in a greater cinematic universe, and I think that's super hella cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Plus, everything else. But when T'Challa first got introduced. In
Civil War.
Yeah.
He and T'Chaka, his dad, both come in with this, like, we handle our shit.
Yeah. They're leaders of their country.
They're leaders of their country, and they got things to say, and they kind of spearhead off the whole event.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's interesting to see black characters that don't have the weight of colonization on them. Or the idea of weighted history. Like, I think of every major kind of black character, like we talked about earlier with Rhodey and other major
Rhodey, Trip from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Mac from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Misty Knight, Rosario Dawson's character in the Netflix series, Luke Cage, like all of them, and of course Nick Fury.
All of them, I would say, besides one or two, have like this background in law enforcement.
Yeah.
And this background of, I've been highly trained in order to get into this position.
Militant was
the proper word. And you have this dynamic going on, whereas you have T'Challa coming in, and he's entering the world, but he comes from something greater beyond that. And so
he commands the army, but by divine right, not by...
I worked my way to get here.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, and then, of course, the challenge, but...
Yeah.
But that came separate.
Yeah, but it makes a difference. Like and it's noticeable, and I think that's what most of my friends had noticed.
I appreciated how just unapologetic they were.
Yeah.
Like they were unapologetically proud. They were unapologetically strong.
And I really like, because that comes from, and Ryan Coogler talked about this in interviews, that they're African. They're African American.
Yeah.
They're African.
Yeah.
And they've been untouched by colonization of the white man.
Yeah.
And they bring that up in the movie very subtly. Amazingly
train, what is that?
But
yeah, we didn't rock with
we
that.
missed that.
Yeah.
But I also appreciate that while this wasn't something that affected them, they see that it has affected the rest of Africa, and they see it as sort of their responsibility to help with it. And that's kind of the big plot point of the fight between...
Yeah, the little mini civil war they had.
I mean, but I think that speaks more to like a bigger issue with the idea of Africans and African Americans dealing with the shared culture. This idea that you don't really represent me because I was sold off and adopted a whole nother culture, and to see, and there's like an actual kind of divide, I don't think it's really spoken about, between Africans and African Americans because of that slight idea of, I think African Americans, they tend to not connect to what an actual culture is, and they don't give the appreciation of how diverse Africans actually are. You know, there's one thing to say, oh, he's African. No, he's Kenyan.
Right.
Yeah. He's
from
Nigerian.
He's Nigerian.
Uganda.
There's a tribe and there's a culture.
I don't want to say like don't blame. It's hard to phrase this. What I'm saying is like I don't want to say like you can't blame us because like you can't blame us because we don't know.
Right.
But I mean, especially for African Americans, it's hard to know anything about that. It's hard to know anything about African culture, about how to like differentiate between different tribes, how to differentiate between cultures.
Especially up until recently.
We don't have the resource. Well, we have better resources than we did, but we don't have resources. Like no one, not many African Americans can trace their history.
Their lineage.
Almost none of us can trace it back to Africa. We can't do it. But for those who somehow can, good on you.
And like I said, up till just a couple of years ago, it was hard to do, but now we have the
DNA test.
The DNA test.
But I mean, like the earliest form of that was what Ancestry.
Ancestry.com.
Black people couldn't use Ancestry.
No, because there's no traceable.
Unless they sales records. Unfortunately, that's
and even that wasn't
real.
enough.
Yeah, no,
that wasn't enough.
And you got to even be creative in that. I mean, I've been a part of like certain history dives where you had to look in where they bought livestock because that's where most of the slave names would be kind of carried through.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
that's insane.
Yeah.
And I, when I taught English for the 6 months that I taught English, we went through the Harlem Renaissance. Yeah. And one of the things that I kind of really wanted to stress when we were going through all of this poetry and all this stuff, I said, you have to understand, you have a culture that is now being allowed to thrive and flourish that is not allowed to take part in the rest of the American culture. So it has to develop something on its own. And it's how, and the thing is it has 60 years or so of build up until that point where it's all hints and snippets of something that was denied from them for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
And so it's all he said, she said up until that point. So we take what we can, and it's how we have these beautiful, colorful paintings. And it's how jazz and the blues and all of these things start to develop. But they develop in this like microcosm because up until this point they're really not allowed to.
Right.
And so you have this extra culture that's been developed, and while it has a ton of influences from that time, like that doesn't necessarily, I mean, it's borderline assimilation. You know, and not with the negative connotations of it, obviously.
Right.
But like you're going, I have to gather what I can from what I've been told by my parents and grandparents, and see if I can implement, this. And in some cases it's on purpose, and in many cases it's just not. It's how you were raised. Because that is what culture is. It's bum bum bum. This staircase.
In the movie itself, it gives you with Killmonger gives you the best example of that. His
Oh, yeah.
dad was first generation
Mhm.
African,
Yeah.
first generation Wakandan. Dad dies. He doesn't have that tie anymore.
Right.
He is fully African American now.
Yeah.
Like he
Yeah.
is nothing but
He's-
the journals and the
Yeah.
writings that his dad left behind.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's one more than
And
most
the rest
people
of
would
the
have.
city, which is going to raise him instead.
Exactly. So he then develops his own culture,
Yep.
his own American culture, and
Yeah.
his own idea of what Wakandan culture is.
Which,
Right.
Yeah.
interestingly enough, winds up going into his military culture.
Yeah.
Um,
exactly.
And he takes that chip on his shoulder right into the military
Oh,
and
yeah.
does terrible things. But he also sees so much worse of like how he sees the worst of the worst of what's happening to black people all over the world.
Because he is going all over the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's an interesting cost when you open yourself up to that.
Yeah, so that ends that ends our first half of this conversation. This has been split into a two-parter because we had a lot to say.
Yeah.
There's a lot to talk about. So go ahead and get your potty break on.
Mm-hmm. We'll wait. It's fine.
Actually, we're not going to wait. Just come back to the
No,
next
just
to the
yeah,
next
it's
half of the
fine. You'll be
episode.
good. Yeah,
please,
yeah.
Please come back to the next half
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
episode.